Hey everyone, how is it going? This is my first, not my first time, but this is one of the first times that I've tested out going live, and it looks like YouTube has now added that live streams like this will show up in the shorts feed. So yeah, I want to test it out. This is something that I would like to do more of, maybe once every 2 weeks or so, something like that. So yeah, if you are seeing this, then let me know if you can hear me okay. My audio, I'm seeing that my audio levels are there, but yeah, if you could let me know in the chat. Also, I'd find out in the chat what it looks like if you can hear me. If you can't hear me, then let me know that too, because I might have to make an adjustment to my mic. Oh, I see people are coming in right now. That is really awesome. So yeah, like I said, I'm still learning how to use this. Okay, I'm here. Yes, I can hear you. Awesome. That is great to hear. Yeah, so as I was mentioning before, right now I'm just kind of testing out this live streaming thing to see how much you guys enjoy it and how much that you engage with it. So I've got a couple of quick things that I want to talk about too, as we're just testing this out. Wild food related things. We are, at least where I am in North Alabama, we're kind of at the tail end of what feels like the real winter season and moving into spring. So a lot of the really early spring greens are coming out. Some of our earliest budding trees like slippery elm, like red maple, they are starting to put out their flowers. Juniper, male juniper trees are dumping their pollen like crazy. So yeah, we're moving into spring. So I'm doing kind of two things. I'm kind of finishing up some tasks that I wanted to make sure that I addressed by the end of winter, and then I'm also thinking forward a little bit about some of the things I'll be doing in the spring. So one of those would be right here. You can see I gathered these earlier. These are little kernels of Mexican plum. Mexican plum is one of the several wild plum species that we have in my area. Wild plum species are found all across North America. I think Prunus americana is probably the most common one, in general across North America. In my area, we also have another really cool early species called Chickasaw plum, Prunus angustifolia. And that one, it's probably flowering right now. I need to go and double check on it, but that is happening. And then we also have, well, before I show you this next thing, let's just test this out and see if we can do kind of a Q&A kind of thing. So as I'm sharing about some other stuff that I'm doing, if you have a question about wild food foraging, any type of question can be for any type of level, then add that into the chat so that I can see it and we can talk about it more. Yeah, my idea for these in the future is probably to have them be more kind of like Q&A in aspect, and maybe especially if I'm doing something that's like wild food processing, where I'm just kind of sitting there and working through whatever it might be. It could be hickory nuts processing acorns or black walnuts. That's something I've been working on a lot. Then you can just kind of follow along with me and we can all learn stuff together while I'm doing that. I'm also wondering, like, sometimes there's a delay with these live streams. So yeah, I want to see if that could be happening to an extent here. But the next thing that I wanted to talk about just while I'm testing this out is I wanted to talk about this stuff right here. You guys see this? So these are black walnut nuts. And black walnuts are notorious for being very difficult to crack, very difficult to actually get the nut meat out from the shell. And also that a lot of people don't like them. And this is a really weird thing. When I started with black walnut and I tried it for the first time, I was repulsed by it. I couldn't believe it. And especially, it was just funny because I'd harvested a bunch of it because there's a lot around me. And then I tried one, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't actually like this. Well, that's a bummer. And I don't know what it is, but the flavor just grew on me. I like it now. I can't explain it. I don't know if the flavor changed over time as it cured, but I like black walnuts now. But going back, so the problem with black walnuts is that they can be very tedious to process. And one thing that I've watched, because I was learning this myself, I watched so many videos to try to get a better sense of better methods for doing this. And all of them will kind of like, they'll focus on this first part. So they'll give you a little bit of tips about cracking the nuts. And then just completely not address the other half of it, which to me is more important. So The first part is the kind of like cracking and actually getting them separated from the shells, just out of it. The next part is that usually, when you're going through a lot of them, you're going to end up with a big bin that is filled with both the shells and the nut meat. No one that I've ever seen has ever really fully addressed a good way to deal with this. And, oh, hey, what's up, Danner? So that is something that I've been working on for the past month or so, and I've got something. I've got something for all of you. I haven't seen anyone talk about this before. It's a method that I've used for other types of wild food processing, and I'm going to be working. The video is well on its way, so I need to do some more editing on that, and I'm hoping to release it this week, maybe on Friday. So stay tuned for that. I can't even begin to explain how excited that I am about this one. You'll hear me talk about it in the video, but just the thought that people watching this video and seeing black walnut in a different way, it's just, the thought of that is amazing to me. When I came up with a method for black walnuts, I'm saying this because I myself, when I would see black walnuts before, it was like, I'm excited about those, I'm going to gather them, but I could see ahead that, man, it's going to be so tedious to process all of these. And that's changed now. Now when I look at black walnuts, I see, oh my gosh, look at all that wild food, and it's going to be completely within my grasp to be able to process this in an efficient way to get a lot of it. So this whole bag right here, and if you were to actually try to buy this online, because you can buy black walnut online, I mean, I don't know, this could be 10, 15 bucks, something like that. They're very expensive. But it's an extremely accessible wild food. It's available to many people across North America, and it's within your ability to be able to process it quickly. So yeah, I cannot emphasize enough how excited I am to share it with all of you. I'm gonna have one more because, like I said, I like the flavor now. I don't know why. Yeah, if you aren't sure if you have black walnuts in your area, then you can look up on iNaturalist. I use iNaturalist for scouting all the time, and look up the sign. You can probably just type in black walnut and it'll pop up, but Juglans nigra, that is the scientific name. So you can see if it grows near you. If not, maybe you have hickory nuts. The process with hickory nuts is a little bit different, and I want to make some more videos about that as well, because I've been learning more about hickory nuts myself this season. And yeah, shagbark hickory can be processed in a similar way to black walnut. Some of the other species, we kind of take a different route, and I'll share more about that in videos in the future. But yeah, love seeing that people have lots of black walnuts on their property. And if you see some that are in your area on iNaturalist, just look around your neighborhoods. Like, my neighborhood has got like well over thousands of black walnuts that drop every single year. I believe that black walnut, I'd be surprised if it wasn't a masting species. So oaks are a masting species as well. And with that, you know what, hold on, 1 second. Let me go get a bunch of nuts to show you guys. I'll be right back. Hopefully you can still hear me talking. If you're joining the live stream right now and you just see no one, but there's a voice. The voice is me. I'm here. I'm getting some acorns and making a lot of noise doing it. And I'll be right back. Alrighty. You guys can all see that? So this is one tray. I've got like 12 other trays over there that are filled with these things. And I'm just having my acorns sit out to dry slowly. This is like passive drying, so I'm not using a dehydrator or anything. I find the product just generally turns out better if you get them to start drying quickly at the beginning and you just let them passively dry. You want them to be nice and open, single layer like this. That's what they want. And that's all there is to it. If you keep them in a good environment like that, that's not moist or anything, then they'll start drying and they're not going to go bad. So anyway, black walnuts are a masting species. Many nut species are masting species, which means that 1 year they'll like dump crazy amounts of them, and then in other years there'll be smaller amounts. So it's one of those things where you can kind of stockpile in a mast year and use those for years to come. Another thing, like, because people are really concerned about taking acorns or things from squirrels. I've talked about this before. It's not a big deal to me. Squirrels are fine. They have a very diverse diet. But if one was concerned about that, during a masking year, the trees are dropping so many nuts that the animal species can't really get to them. And again, I'm mainly getting acorns and things like this from suburban environments where there are not that many animal species anyway. Like, if you were to sit through a whole season and kind of watch a spot, you would see that very little of the acorns or the nuts go anywhere because there actually aren't that many animal species that are gathering them from a suburban area. So yeah, that's a little bit about nuts. Okay, I'm gonna look through some of the comments here. Awesome, someone says that they're new to foraging, just learning what's in my area. That is a great way to do it. I have an article on my website that's called How to Start Foraging, and it's a very general thing. So it's just giving you pointers, like no matter where you are, on like how to do it safely, what precautions that you should follow, what things that you should look out for, some beginner-friendly species, and I want to share more about that as we get into the spring season. You know, people generally aren't as interested in foraging in the wintertime, but if you look on my channel, I have a ton of content about things that, well, let's see if we can, let's make this like just generally look a little bit more interesting. Got some acorns on the table, some black walnuts for people who are joining. But yeah, winter is a great time to be doing foraging activities, especially scouting. So I have a lot of videos about how to scout and find wild fruit trees in the winter time, which is going to give you a leg up, a greater capacity to be able to find wild fruit, wild nuts, wild species of all different kinds. And most of these people just don't realize, but they're really distinctive. Oh, hey, thank you for the $5. That is really awesome. I sincerely appreciate that. So species like American persimmon. And if people, I want more people to know about American persimmon. It's my favorite wild fruit. It drops like in crazy, crazy amounts. I have yet to have a bad year for American persimmon. So it's a wild fruit that I can count on every single year. And yes, loofah. It is on my website, which is feralforaging.com. If you go to my channel and you use the bio link, then it will take you there and you can find all the stuff that I share on my website. I have a lot of articles there as well as whatchamacallit? Videos. Yeah, I have articles and videos. So Glory to God Homestead asks, is there benefits for patrons? Maybe you can elaborate on that question a little bit more, but I'll answer what I think you might be asking. So do I have benefits for patrons? I do. I have many of them. So again, if you go to my channel bio, it'll be one of the first things that pops up, which is my Patreon, which is how you can get access to exclusive classes. And the other one that I've worked a lot on this winter, and I really want to lay them all out. Should I go get them right now? I'll get them in a second for you guys to show you. But I made these downloadable PDF guides for a variety of different plants that are of interest to foragers. The main one that I think most people would be interested in is my winter guides to wild fruit trees. Right now I think that there are 7 species and I have 2 more that I want to put up there. But yeah, that is going to show you all the distinctive characteristics that you need to know to identify these wild fruit trees in the winter time. I think it is a huge resource and just one of those things that it was honestly by accident that I got into winter tree identification. I just started learning trees more systematically in the winter. And as a result, I just got pretty good at it, I would say. And there is very few resources directed to foragers that are winter specific. So I was really happy to be able to use my knowledge and get out there with my camera to take really detailed photos of the buds and the twigs and these distinctive characteristics that people don't pay attention to. So they think it's hard to identify these things. Like if you're just looking at the bark of a tree from afar, you think, oh, that's going to be really tough to identify that thing. You get up close and you just look at those buds and oh my gosh, like you just can't mistake them for anything else. Like if I were to show you a bud of American persimmon in one hand and then show you a bud of serviceberry in the other, both of them are incredibly distinctive. Like I can't think of anything else that looks remotely like them. So we've got a lot of people joining. Hey everyone, I'm so glad that you're all here. We are talking about foraging for wild food. And what I want to do right now, I'm going to run off camera. Hopefully I won't lose a bunch of you. I'm going to run off camera and I'm going to grab some of those profiles that I'm talking about and I'll bring them back and show them to you. One of them has to do with a poison ivy video that I just posted today, or a little bit earlier. So let me go grab that and I'll show you guys what are on those. Okay, I'm reading a question really quick. Grow up my 7 field. So unfortunately, someone asked a question. It's a great question about persimmon. The thing with American persimmon is that it's a dioecious species. Dioecious means that there are separate male and female individuals. As foragers, the main one that we're interested in are the females, because the females produce the fruit. There is not a good way without DNA sequencing, which is actually what my wife does for her work, but without DNA sequencing, there's not a good way to know which one that you have. One thing that you could do, if you wanted to have a guaranteed male and female, is you could clonally reproduce. So if you clonally reproduce from a known female, where you've seen that has the fruits or you've seen that has the female flowers, you can tell the difference between those two, then you would be getting a guaranteed female from that clonal propagation. So that's one thing that you can do if you want to be sure, even when they're going to be a little bit younger. But give me a second, I'm going to keep talking to you guys. Again, if you're joining the live stream right now and you just see an empty room with a voice talking, it's me. I'm actually here, and I'm just going to look for a couple of my guides to show you guys. Okay, I'm on the way back. Hopefully we didn't lose like over half the people who are on the live stream, which I'm just kind of testing out right now. Oh, sweet. Everyone's still here, or most people are at least. Okay, I'm going to look at this question, then I'm going to show you these guide sheets right here. So, speaking of identifying trees in the winter, yeah, so Isaac identified a black cherry tree in his area, and that is awesome. So, black cherry is a very underlooked wild food, in my opinion. There are some black cherries that taste really awesome. There is a caveat that I have to give you. It's pretty overblown, the fear with black cherry of like high amounts of cyanide or things like that. So what I would recommend, I can't recommend people eat the seeds. So choke cherry, you can actually dry them all, grind up into a powder, and you can eat like the kind of flour of it. My friend Orion from Forage, Colorado, he's Orion Aeon on YouTube. You should check him out. He has done that before, and he sent me some of that flour. It's amazing, he makes cookies with it. It's amazing. But yeah, with black cherry, that's not recommended. Still, what I do is I'll crush them all up, and actually I'll make a syrup with them. So a syrup to put on like acorn pancakes. Of course, we've got to make acorn pancakes, and it's very, very delicious. So that's the thing on black cherry. They vary a lot in their taste, but if you find a good one that's like really fruiting well, that has good access to sunlight, you're good to go. That's going to be tasting amazing. Let's see. Okay, someone asked what the seeds are. These are seeds of Mexican plum right here, which is a native species to at least the southeast of North America of wild plum that have like really delicious plum fruits. Okay, so I went all the way over there. And by the way, as I'm going through all this stuff, you guys, keep on asking more questions. Adam asked, should I get Sam Thayer's new book? It's funny you should ask. Man, you just queued me up perfectly. Here's Sam Thayer's new book. The answer to that question is unequivocally. Is that grammatically correct? Does that make sense? Unequivocally, yes, is what I'm saying. Without a doubt, yes, you should get this book. This book is like $30 or something. It covers just about literally, and I mean literally, I'm not exaggerating, every known edible wild species to the Midwest and Eastern North America. This book is $30. I would have easily paid $120 for this book. Easily. It's a steal. This is, in my opinion, the best book that will come out for wild food foraging, at least in Eastern and Central North America, for decades at least. So yes, highly, highly recommend that book. I'll put it, where can I put it? I'll put it right here so people can see it. So we've got Mexican plum, we've got our black walnuts. I can talk about this more if you guys want to. Yes, this is the one that you want. All right. Oh, more questions are coming in. Okay, I'm gonna get back to the questions in just a second. But first I want to tell you guys about all these because someone was asking about them. So I just posted a short on comparing Virginia Creeper to poison ivy. If you haven't seen it yet, after the stream you can go check it out. That'll be on my channel. And well, I gave away the secret. So the lookalike that I teased that you're not sure what it is Virginia Creeper to poison ivy. So if I'm going to show you guys right here, that is what a vine of Virginia Creeper looks like in the wintertime. And this is what a vine of poison ivy looks like. It's kind of hard to tell right there. The printer that I have for this isn't that great, but the PDFs look much better. So that's what a poison ivy vine looks like in the wintertime. And when people just hear the phrase, hairy vine, no friend of mine, which is a common phrase for remembering what poison ivy looks like in the winter, they think any vine that has the hairy aerial roots is poison ivy. And so if you were trying to remove them from your yard, then you might be doing a ton of effort to just get rid of Virginia Creeper, which some people say that they have a reaction to. I'm a little bit skeptical about it, but at the very least, in most individuals, is not going to cause a reaction in comparison to poison ivy, which is going to cause a relatively severe reaction, depending on how much you get in contact with it, to most individuals. So yeah, these PDF guides, these are 3. I've got another one here for wild grapes right here. These are all lianas. This is my guide to lianas. And liana means a woody vine. That's the technical botanical term for a liana. So these are all available on my Patreon for the $5 tier. That's all it costs. You can just pay the $5, get it, and then be on your way, whatever you choose. But I'm always posting more and I'm always updating them. So there's a lot of really cool things on my Patreon, and I would love for you guys to check it out. That supports me and lets me to make more videos and these like really detailed, in-depth investigations. Anyway, this is just one set of 4. There's 4 sets. One for wild fruit trees. There's one for wild traditionally used medicinal trees. There's one for the lianas, and then I've got another really cool one, which is for herbaceous plants. So scouting for things like goldenrod, or scouting for curly dock, or scouting for wild carrot in the wintertime, and also how to distinguish wild carrot for some of its deadly lookalikes. That is included in the guide as well. Not one that I recommend for beginners, but we'll be talking about that more on the channel, without a doubt. Okay, someone says boring. I'm so sorry. If you aren't interested in wild food, then this might not be the right stream for you. Okay, so is there an edibles book, someone asked? This is the one that I would recommend for wild edible plant foraging. Sam Thayer's Field Guide to Edible Wild Plants. Someone asked how to convince your family that you are not consuming poisonous berries. I saw some silver berries the other day and my mom got super nervous when I ate them. Well, Noah, what I would ask you is, what were the silver berries? Because from the comment that you gave me, I myself, as a forager, I'm a little bit concerned about what you ate. The rule number 1 with foraging is that you never ever eat something that you aren't 100% certain of its identity, right? That's the biggest fear by far for anyone that's getting into foraging is, what if I have the wrong thing? And this is the way that I like to talk about it. I haven't shared it this way before, so you guys all get the very first time of me having this metaphor, this explanation. So if we went to the grocery store together and we bought some broccoli, and then I handed you the broccoli and I said, hey, will you eat this? You'd probably say yes, and I would imagine you would feel safe eating the broccoli. Why? Why do you feel safe eating the broccoli? Because you know it's broccoli, right? You know exactly what it is. It's very distinctive. You know, there's nothing else that really looks like the broccoli. If we went out in a field and I picked some random plant and I said, hey, why don't you eat this? Let's say you didn't know that I was an expert forager, right? I imagine that you would be less comfortable in that scenario with consuming that random plant that I handed you. And so what's the difference? You knew that the broccoli was broccoli, but you don't know what the random plant is. So the first thing that I'm teaching everyone when they're getting into foraging is how to know. And the way that you know is you develop your botany skills, so you learn distinctive characteristics for these plants, and then you will be able to find out exactly what they are. And then you start to learn other things that maybe look like them, and then you learn as you go on that a lot of things that people thought looked like them, that they were lookalikes, they aren't really. They aren't really when you look closely at them. So that's a little bit about identification and foraging for you guys. A book about foraging in California, that is out of my domain. I'm afraid I am not super familiar with that area. Yeah, for all of you friends joining from Western North America, I can give you general tips, and I really want to travel over there. I've been over there a couple times, but not like specifically for foraging, because I'd love to learn more about the species that you guys have over there. Some really incredible biodiversity in that part of the country. Elaeagnus pungens. So yeah, you knew exactly that it was Elaeagnus pungens. You knew how to identify it. And so how to convince your family, I think that what you could do is you could just start to walk them through the distinctive characteristics of Elaeagnus pungens, which is another name for that is silverthorn. So you can show them the little splotches that are on the leaves, and the leaves are this color on one side and they're a different color on the other side. That has the little kind of like bell at the base of the berries, and so on and so on. And as you walk them through and you're describing exactly what it is and why it is what it is, I think that your family might become more comfortable with you and your foraging endeavors. I encountered that myself when I started foraging. My friends, my family were all terrified that I was going to poison myself, but I'm still here. And many people in my comments are all thinking that I probably have just poisoned myself if I don't post a video for like a week. Someone would argue that broccoli isn't edible. Fair enough. Here, after binge watching your shorts, you have, okay, thank you. Just tried. I should probably read the comments before, in my head before I say them out loud, just in case. Is free fruit tree? Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so it's not actually one PDF that you get for free. At this point, you get 4 PDFs for free, which are the previews for each of the sets. But you know, I have to make a living doing this. I have to be able to support myself and my family. So yeah, I give away 4 of them for free. They're all fantastic. I have one for pawpaw, for black willow, I think for Virginia creeper, and then I give away 3 for the herbaceous plant ones. That's the wild carrots. So actually, no, it's like 5 that you get for free. And then the rest of them are all available on my Patreon, which I hope that you guys will check out if you're interested in that. Based in East Tennessee. I'm not in East Tennessee, but I am pretty close to East Tennessee. So I'm in North Alabama. So a lot of what I share, I mean, basically everything that I share of the species that I cover are going to be found in Eastern Tennessee. Most of what I share is going to be found all across Eastern North America, many parts of Central North America. When you start to get out like past the Rockies into Western North America, or even in the Rockies, that's where there starts to be a drop-off in the particular relevance of the species that I'm covering. But like I said before, I share both particular species, and then I also talk about principles. Principles of identifying wild food, of processing wild food, and those apply no matter where you find yourself in the world. Okay, I'll answer a couple more questions here. Yeah, this is your first time for a live on YouTube in portrait mode. This is my first time for a live YouTube in portrait mode. I'm experimenting with this more. And everyone please comment if you're still here, what days and what times work well for all of you. Because like I said, I'd like to do this more. I really enjoy getting to just talk with you all, chit chat, see your questions, see what people are wondering about, and just hang out with all of you. Do I have a favorite tree and a least favorite tree? I do. Or I'll give you the first ones that come to mind. So my favorite tree, my favorite wild fruit tree, American persimmon, Diospyros virginiana. Without a doubt, that is my favorite wild fruit tree. I talked about it a little bit before. Easy to process. It drops in abundance every single year. It's delicious. There are so many things to love about it. That's my favorite wild fruit tree. If I had to get into my least favorite trees, they're all going to be noxious invasives in my area. So privet, not a fan. Tree of heaven, not a fan. Bradford pear, not a fan. Those 3 right there, you know, already like that covers it, like the most of my detest for wild invasive, or just for invasive exotic species that are displacing natives. And maybe that brings us to where we can talk about fire. Fire is pretty cool, right? And fire is extremely misunderstood by the public these days. Before I get into this, I just want to say that I've learned a lot of this from my friend Kyle from Native Habitat Project, and actually with some of the folks from Native Habitat Project This past weekend, I got to do a prescribed burn with them. And I'll have a short coming out on that probably in the next week or so. That was a whole lot of, it's just like the biggest win-win in so many ways. Of course, so some of the people out there were were certified prescribed burn managers. So the first thing that you make sure is that conditions are right, everything is safe. So we had someone out there who's making sure that everything that we're doing is safe, that we're not going to have any jumps, that nothing is going to happen that we aren't prepared for. And so within those bounds, it's some of the most fun that you can have. I mean, getting to literally burn the woods like with a safe brush fire. Few things are more fun than that. It is an incredible time. So that was amazing, but it's not, I mean, sure, it's fun and all, but in Central and Eastern North America, in places where we always had fire, which we did in like 80+% of places, they need the fire. Especially the native species need the fire. They're adapted to the fire being there, and we have come in and removed it almost entirely, largely, and that's not good. So we as humans also have the capacity to bring it back, and we can bring it back in a controlled, in a prescribed way. And in this book, it'll also tell you about, I mean, I'll just start going through a list. Blueberries, crab apples, hawthorn, wild plums, wild cherries. I keep going. The list goes on and on. What do all the species have in common? They depend on fire in some form or fashion, or they are benefited from fire. They are benefited from fire in relation to the invasive exotic species around them. One of the reasons why we have so many of them is because we've lost fire. So as a forager, if you are a forager, if you are a nature lover, if you are into ecology, if you're into native birds, native insects, everyone has a reason to love controlled, prescribed fire. And I really hope it feels like we are on kind of a mindset shift right now, and I hope that that continues. That's all that I can say, because I think we need more of it. I'll be sharing more about that this year. Of course, my friends at Native Habitat Project are sharing about that all the time. You guys make sure to check them out if you haven't seen them already. Of native cedar. Yeah, I imagine by native cedar you would mean eastern red cedar, which is Juniperus virginiana. Juniper is another name for it. It is different from the cedar that we find in Western North America, I believe. But yeah, that's another one that can come in and kind of get in a lot of places where fire has been suppressed, where the fire would have taken it out much earlier in its life had there been fire in that area. What are your thoughts on sassafras tree? I have a few in my land. I have many thoughts about sassafras. So how do I tease this? If you saw one of my longer videos, I talked about sassafras at the end of it, a longer video on traditionally used medicinal trees in my area. And sassafras by far, I mean, I just think of like any medicinal tree, sassafras is probably the most controversial of them. And the reason why it's so controversial is because of the presence of a chemical called safrole. Safrole is the chemical that gives it the most like delicious smelling aromatic aroma that you can imagine. It's incredible, and it tastes incredible too. I've tasted it myself several times. Here's where it gets interesting. And I have done a very in-depth analysis of this, and I haven't got to share it with anyone yet, but I'm looking forward to it. That is something that I'm working on right now when I can, in between all the wild food stuff that I do. That'll be going on another channel that I haven't really announced yet, but I'm taking a lot of the herbalism stuff that I used to share on feral foraging, and I'm moving that to a new place because I kind of want to have a distinct, this feral foraging is wild food, this other thing is for herbalism related stuff. But what I'll tell you this right now, from my research, it's undeniable that safrole is a carcinogen. A lot of people don't want to hear that. They want to believe that it's all a hoax, but I'm sorry to say there is clear evidence that safrole is a carcinogen. That being said, alcohol is a carcinogen. Undeniably, alcohol is a carcinogen. Most people don't know that. And so where does safrole sit in relation to the other carcinogens that we find in nature or that are synthetically created? Like asbestos, or alcohol, or smoking tobacco, or all those other things. because those are all known carcinogens, alcohol especially, and no one seems to be worried about that. No one is telling you that you cannot have any alcohol under any circumstances because there is no safe amount of alcohol that anyone can consume. And that's true. I'm saying this as someone who consumes alcohol myself, so I'm not like saying that no one should do this. I'm saying that's the nuance in it. You know, I do a lot of wild fruit brewing, so I'm making persimmon wine, elderberry wine. It's so amazing. And to me, like, you know, fermenting these things, that's part of nature, right? And for a long time, it was a way of making drinks more safe. So because though alcohol is a carcinogen, but there's nuance around it, we still consume it, and it's okay to a certain extent. None of this is medical advice, let me just go ahead and say that. There's a lot of nuance to the subject as it relates to safrole also being a carcinogen. So I'm excited to share with you all of that. I have a lot more numbers and specific details that pertain to that I want to share with everyone. So that's my thing about sassafras. That's my short thoughts. That was short, believe it or not. It's probably going to be like a half an hour long video that I'll make at the end of it. Are there any other uses for pawpaw than just the edible fruit? That's a good question. And my answer is I don't know. There might be, but I do not know for sure. Okay, Noah asks, do you plant many native edibles in close proximity to your home? The answer is yes. Noah says, I would like to make a native food forest, especially for less common species that you have a guaranteed harvest. Yeah, in my backyard. So one thing that I do as well, I'm a forager, but I'm not against gardening or farming, right? That would just be silly. All of these things, all of these ways that we get food, they exist kind of on a spectrum. Where on this one end, it's like complete wild food. We good? Oh, I did a weird thing right there. So on this one end is complete just wild food, and then on the other hand is like plow agriculture. We're growing corn, things like that. Sorry guys, I'm having connection problems there. I think we're good now. Hopefully we're good. Maybe the number will drop to 0 and I'll find out that it wasn't good. Let me know in the comments if you can still hear me. I think everything is still... Okay, I got another comment. So yeah, one thing that I do is in my backyard where it's like, you know, not a completely wild scenario, I'm planting improved species. So I'm actually planting specific cultivars of elderberry. I'm planting specific cultivars of American groundnut that were actually improved from LSU. And I love that they did that. I think it's the coolest thing ever that we see improvement programs for native wild food of North America, because most of it is from Europe and Eurasia. By the time that people came over, they already had all the cultivated foods that they needed, so they didn't care much about cultivating foods native to North America. There's a few exceptions like brambleberries, blackberries, raspberries, and strawberries. Strawberries is another example. And my strawberry vines in my backyard are doing amazing. My wild strawberry, true wild strawberry, not mock strawberry, true wild strawberry, same genus as the strawberries you get from the grocery store. Actually, the strawberries you get from the grocery store are a cross of 2 wild species. The one that we have here in eastern North America, Forager virginiana, and another one that grows in western North America and South America called Forager chiloensis. So it's a cross of the consistency and the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the resistance or the reliability. I think that's the word I'm looking for the reliability, with the larger fruit of chiloensis that grows in western North America. So that's really cool to see. A native privacy bush and or other tree, probably something like yaupon. Isn't it, like if you're looking for an evergreen yaupon, if you want a thicket, wild plums. Wild plums. It's not going to be like full year-round privacy because it'll drop some of its leaves in the winter, but it's still a pretty thick thicket. Guys, we need more wild plums. I plan on making a video about this week. We need more wild plums. No one cares about wild plums. Wild plums need sunlight. They can't grow in a closed canopy forest. And most of the public land that we have set aside for nature, we don't manage it for prairie species, for sunlight needing species like wild plum. We don't. We just let all the trees grow and we think that's good. It's not. That is not what we need, especially in Central and Eastern North America. We don't need more of that. I know it's a weird thing to hear, but I'll say it again. We don't need more trees. More trees does not mean good. It's not a blanket thing. I think that we are influenced by the ecological needs of other parts of the world. and we apply those to where we find ourselves in the world, like deforestation happening in the Amazon, which is supposed to be a forest, as far as I'm aware. But where I am in southeastern North America, that's not necessarily supposed to be a forest. What if it's supposed to be a prairie or a savanna or a grassland? And you don't see much of that anymore. Again, a lot of this message comes to me that I learned through my friends at Native Habitat Project. So, wild plums. I think that's what got me started on that tangent. Plant more wild plums. I would love to see that. And plant ones that are native to your area. You can use tools like iNaturalist and just look up like prunus or wild plum. And it should give you what you're finding around your area, whether that is Chickasaw plum, American plum, Mexican plum, hog plum. There's tons of different species that you can find. Hey, RAR33, thank you so much for the $5. I sincerely appreciate that. I totally didn't expect this going live, but to all of you who are donating to the stream, thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate all that. It means a lot to me. And my promise to you is that I'm just going to keep on making more content about wild food. Always. Okay. Berry tree called gob. Huh. Northern Somalia. I'm not familiar with that one, but that sounds incredible. Well, I'm glad that you were off at this time and you got to join the live stream. I think that after these are done, the recording probably goes up on my channel, if I had to guess. So people can see these later on. And if you guys haven't done this yet, check my community section. Hopefully it pops up when you're like in the app, because I'll probably do a poll that'll ask people like, hey, in a general week, what times work best for you for everyone to get to hang out for a live stream, whether you are working a little bit and listening, or whether you're sitting there and watching me hang out here with these various things that I've got to show you guys. Yeah, would just love to hang out with you guys more. I think this is a lot of fun. Have you written a book or have a video sharing your library? I have not written a book, and I don't plan on writing a book for a while. I think that there are a lot of incredible people who are writing books. Sam Thayer is probably my number one favorite. And in many ways, if I were to just write a book right now, there would just be a lot of overlap between what Sam has done. And so what I love doing is I love doing these big explorations of wild food, and I love to share it in the video format. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm passionate about. So for the foreseeable future, I will be making videos. And it won't be books, although if you're interested in more written content from me, I have articles on my website for a lot of the things that I make videos about, and I have really nice downloadable guides with photos and things on my Patreon. $5 is all it takes, and you get access to all of them. There's over 12 or 15 downloadable guides that are there right now, and I have a whole new set that I'm getting ready to do for the springtime, which has to do with plant families as they relate to foraging. I'm very excited about that one. That's the next big project that I'll be working on. I do have a TikTok, but YouTube is my favorite place. I post most of my stuff, I would say, is made for YouTube. That is the medium that I'm most passionate about. So if you ever see me live, it's always going to be on YouTube for the most part. Do you know where to buy wild plum or pawpaw trees? I would just look up I think that there's a place called Prairie Moon. I'm getting out of my depth here. I'm not super familiar. Online, I know there's one called Prairie Moon that you can check out. Another thing that you can do is you can just find local specimens in your area and learn more about propagation. So being able to do clonal propagation, especially pawpaw. Pawpaw wants to spread by runners. Pawpaw wants to go off in tons of different directions. So there's a lot of possibility there. Throw some thumbs up, folks. Yes, if you're enjoying the stream, then hit me with some thumbs up. I guess that's a way that we can say it. Thoughts on mycelium? Can you elaborate on what you mean by mycelium? Just fungi in general? I have very good thoughts about fungi in general. Chickasaw plums. Yeah, Chickasaw plums are super prolific, and they're amazing. I love Chickasaw plum. Kyle, that I mentioned before from Native Habitat Project, Kyle and Jake, they took me out to the most ridiculously productive Chickasaw plum spot I've ever seen in my life. I'm not exaggerating. There were thousands, and there was probably over 10,000 wild plums out there in an acre area. It was insane. I've never seen anything like it. And they are now growing out some of those, and we're going to be doing some experiments because there was 2 different varieties that we found there, seemingly wild. One of them was very yellow and the other one was more red. So I don't know what's up with that. But yeah, jigsaw plum. Okay, what's your favorite berry? My favorite berry, if we're talking specifically about a berry fruit, my favorite berry, oh, that's a tough one. Okay, I'll give you two. Is that okay? I'll give you two. First is black raspberry, wild black raspberry. Not blackberry. Blackberries are okay, but they're not my favorite. Black raspberry, sometimes called blackcap. I love that berry. It's so delicious. It's so flavorful, and it's one that is not as available in grocery stores. So it's just another kind of cool bonus of it's kind of a foraged treasure, you know. The other one would be wild blueberry. I was talking about this with a friend of mine just this past weekend when we were doing the burn. Really cool guy. His name was Lee, and had a very incredible depth of the native flora that was around him. And whenever someone starts like rattling off scientific names, like we were talking about Vaccinium pallidum and Fuscatum and Eliotai and Corymbosum, it's just my language. I love talking with people about that stuff. But we were talking about how it's called, I think it's called Southern Appalachian blueberry or something like that. No. I'm messing up the common name, but it's Vaccinium pallidum if I'm not mistaken. And it's delicious. Like, there was this one area that I found that has like 5 different species of Vaccinium, the blueberry genus, in like literally a 10-foot square. And 3 of them were like a classic kind of blueberry, of what you'd imagine of a blueberry. And one of them just had an extra amount of flavor and sweetness to it that was incredible. And I'm pretty sure it was Vaccinium pallidum. So look that one up for me and tell me if you guys see the common name of it, because I'm blanking on it right now. It's not Appalachian, it's like, I can't remember. But it was amazing, and I really love it. So yeah, wild blueberries are awesome. Again, to go back to what we talked about before, they need fire. The spot that I found them, thankfully, the managers of this public land area and the public land allowed foraging of certain things in certain ways. I have a whole article on how to figure out what those rules are, but they did prescribe burns. And I'm so thankful that they have, because this year there are hundreds of blueberries that are coming up. Hundreds of them. So I'm very excited about that. Let's see. Do I have sting nettle where I live? Not really. It's not very common where I live. And in eastern North America, a lot of the sting nettle that we find is actually an exotic species from Eurasia. I'm a fan of wood nettle, Laportia canadensis, which is a native plant. It doesn't have opposite branching, it has alternate branching, so you can tell it apart. It'll still sting you really good, and it tastes amazing as well. So I really love that one. I've actually planted that one in my backyard quite a bunch. Okay, a lot of questions coming in, and I'm going to try to get through them. Are your Fragaria virginiana cultivars? No, so the Fragaria virginiana that I have are just straight wild harvested species. Sorry, the mic went down there, so if you couldn't hear me quite as well for a second, I apologize for that. Yeah, someone says that they love sting nettle for arthritis. Yeah, if you love sting nettle for like the stinging effect, then you will, let me tell you, you'll love wood nettle. Because, yeah, comparing the two, I feel like wood nettle has a bit more of a punch to it in terms of the stinging effect. YouTube Shorts recommended you. Well done. Keep up the good work. Thank you, YouTube Shorts. I really appreciate that. And I will keep up. If you guys call it good, then thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I will keep up the work. And if you guys find it good, then that's a bonus there. I'll hold this right here. I'll just keep on talking about wild food more and more. Never going to stop. Yes, yeah, and think fact, that's a good point. I always get tripped up on the botanical definitions of like a berry versus a drupe. I really need to sit down and really hash that all out, but yes, aggregate fruit. And another thing about aggregate fruit is a lot of the ones that you'd think of, and see, I think like mulberry is different. Mulberry is a collective fruit or something, but a lot of those, like, it's really, like, wild fruit in general, it's really hard to mistake them for other things. So if you're a beginner, and I'm sharing a lot more stuff about this right now, wild fruit is a great place to start. It's a great place to find things that are really distinctive, that would be difficult to mistake for other things, that are also easy to process and delicious. I mean, like, you don't even need to process them. Like, you just straight up pick some wild blueberries and have those immediately, and it's amazing. Okay, one middle. So someone asks, is it possible to grow? Hold on, there's someone on my door. I think it's just a package though. Let me see if he walks off. I'm still here. I need to go see if there's someone at the door with a package. I'm still here. I'm talking to you guys. Yeah, okay, he walked off. We're good. I'll check out what that package is in a second. Okay, someone asked, is it possible to grow actual wild bananas like the ones with huge seeds? I imagine that it would be if you're growing in the right zone for them. I know very little about wild bananas, so I cannot say for sure. I never knew that acorns are edible. Looked about that in a foraging book I picked up. Yes, blade therapy. If you, do you make knives, by the way? Because I really need a good knife. And yeah. So message me if you make knives. Anyway, so what was the question? About acorns. Yeah. Acorns are, I have the acorns here. Can you guys see them? These are chestnut oak, Quercus montana, which is one of my favorite acorns for processing into acorn flour. Processing is required. Very important. Otherwise, it won't taste good. You won't want to have any of it. No one's going to poison themselves with acorns, as everyone likes to say in my comments on my videos. Because they don't have like a 10-minute disclaimer at the beginning of all of my 1-minute shorts. Sorry, that's just a little, a little fun rant right there. Yeah, so they have to be processed to be palatable, to taste good. And I have a whole series on how to do that. It's going to take you from everything from how to scout for the acorn trees, the oaks, the acorn trees, all the way to processing them into flour, how to get the starch out of them, which not a lot of people talk about, and then how to make them into delicious, amazing things. So I love acorns. That was my wild food gateway drug. That's what got me into foraging. So I could talk about acorns and oaks for a very long time. Yes. Yeah, red oak, white oak, they're all good. What I care about more, you see, check this out right here. You see how big that nut is, the chestnut? The larger the nut, sorry, that's just how I have to say it, the better in general. Because if I have to crack these, each one of these that I crack is going to give me way more nut meat than if I were doing something like, I've got some over there just because I'm experimenting with them for fun, of Quercus machoii, what's the, which is chickapin oak. Chickapin oak. Think fact, I am based in North Alabama. So most of the things that I share, most of the species that I talk about can be found all across Eastern North America, many in Central North America, to a lesser degree, some of them in Western North America. But yeah, I talked about this a little bit earlier in the stream. We've been going for 2 minutes and I'm just having a blast here. But I share principles and species. And sometimes the principle applies to the species, so you learn the principle through the species that are relevant to basically wherever that you are foraging. Some of them could be like literally anywhere in the world. Other things like winter tree identification would be relevant to anywhere where there are deciduous trees. So any temperate region of the world. Thank you for saying that I'm cool, Neil. Oh, gotcha. That sounds pretty cool, Blade Therapy. I have to check out your channel. All right, everyone. We are at 53 minutes. We're almost at an hour that we've been hanging out here, which is cool. Let me know if you are enjoying this. Let me know if you want to see more live streams like this. I need to eat lunch, I think. It's about my lunchtime. So let's just go over a couple of the things that we learned here. We learned about some of the wild seeds that I'm getting ready for starting. These are Mexican plum. They're cold stratifying in the fridge right now. We learned about black walnuts. I processed all these. It was relatively easy with a new processing method that I'll be sharing with you very soon. We learned about Sam Thayer's book right here, which is an incredible guide that is a steal for the price. Go ahead, do yourself a favor, buy this book, and then go buy all the rest of Sam's books. I promise you, you will never regret buying one of Sam's books. They're all absolutely incredible. Here's a bunch of acorns that I have that I'll be processing at some point in the future, and I have a whole entire series on how to take acorns, find them, and turn them into a wild food that you can eat with processing. And then here are just 3 of many different downloadable guides that are available to you on my Patreon. The link to that is in my channel bio. So, any more questions? I do seed drops from time to time on my Patreon. I don't do a lot of them, that's not really my thing, you know, but sometimes people are interested. So on my Patreon, I do seed drops from time to time if you are interested in getting seeds. Let's see. Yeah, if you need to contact me, then I think my information is on my channel. Someone asked about the bananas again. Okay, everyone. So it's been a pleasure. I hope to see you at the next live stream. Like I said, look out in my community section because I'll probably be posting a poll of when times are good for you. What I want to do, I want to post my video about black walnut, and then I want to start, just processing a bunch of them and get to hang out with you while I process the black walnuts. Alrighty. Thanks everyone so much. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Bye everyone. I don't know how to do this. How do I end this? X? Alright.